From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, you good-looking badasses. It's great to have you here tuning into the Badass Counseling Show podcast. Whether you are tuning in from Belgium, Belgrade, or Budapest, it's so lovely to have you here. No idea why I did all European references there, except those are the only B's I know. Beirut and Bangkok. Those as well. Great to have you here.
Well done.
Thank you. We actually have Southeast Asia listeners. They've told us so. So that's nice as well. And other parts Asia. I am joined in studio with my fellow producers and the brains of this operation, because Lord knows it ain't me. I've got KC over there in the booth kicking ass as usual, and Rob the Rocket, joined by Carly the Studio Cat. If you are watching us on YouTube live, you're able to see Carly the Studio Cat. That's her. Rob, what's the good word today, my man?
Sir, I'm doing very well, thank you, Sven. But I have been thinking lately that it's always something. So we deal with one crisis at a time, and this show certainly helps.
Well, I tell you, Rob, you always make it seem crisis-free, and I'm grateful for that a lot. And KC, you as well. Thank you both. Rob, tell us about Lainey and Della.
All right, we have two guests today, Sven. First, Lainey wrote in and said, I come from a pretty dysfunctional family, which didn't bother me much until I became a mom myself. Since having two daughters, I'm overwhelmed with confusion surrounding my relationship with my own mother. My boyfriend has encouraged me to go no contact, and part of me wants to, but another part of me is still longing desperately to have the mom I've always wanted. I have trouble identifying my own emotions, and when I am able to identify them, I'm lost about what to do about them. I need to sort my shit out, not just for myself, but for my family as well. I'm not sure where to begin or how to follow through. And we also heard from Della, who says, I've been on quite a roller coaster with my dad. I am 32, married. My dad is 72, German and divorced. We've had a fight that was building for years and finally blew up last January, on the 29th to be exact. He hasn't seen me for my birthday in 17 years and has chosen to see my sister for many of those years. He only shows love via financial assistance, but holds it over my head. He favors my sister, my only sibling. He's hypercritical, and he abandoned me for his brand new girlfriend right when I needed him most. Last year, I chose to cut off my mom, and I also lost my childhood best friend's mom to suicide. You could have called her one of my many moms. The fight isn't over, but it is making progress. I didn't say the most mature or polite things to him, but I have owned it and apologized. But I received the silent treatment, even when my water heater broke and I desperately needed his help. My dad co-owns my home, and I was unemployed at the time. He ignored my messages and calls, which made me more mad. I was talking to him through my sister, but my sister didn't want to enable his behavior. Because I needed help desperately, I just dropped most of what I brought up. In April, he came up from Florida to watch my pets while I went on vacation, but that ended with me tossing him out. I don't know what to do or how to cope.
Ladies, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Hey.
Hey, great to have you here. So I'm going to start with Della, since we heard yours last. You said that fight had been building with your dad for years, finally blew up last January, the 29th. Mm-hmm. Throughout the rest of your write-up, you talk about basically how you have these feelings and you back down and you drop whatever is on your mind because you need his help. So I don't want to know about the fight on January 29th. I want to know the essence in one sentence or less of what had been building for years. If you were to sum it up in one sentence, what really had been stirring inside of you for years, excuse me.
Honestly, it could be a resentment. I just felt like I was being disrespected back to back and just taking it. And I just did not know how to stand up to him without him giving the silent treatment. And so I kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what? Give me the silent treatment. That's fine.
Okay. And so resentment over being disrespected. And then you go on to explain how basically 17 years, he hasn't seen you for your birthday. He chooses to see your sister. He clearly favors her and he's hypercritical of you. If you were to put that, let me ask you, if you had someone in your life, let's say a very, very, very dear friend, maybe an old friend that you had known, say, since childhood, but over the last 15 years, they had been disrespecting you at that level, what would you do? Would you have a conversation with them? Would you just walk away because you realize they're never going to change? Would you just endure it because you so just love having them in your life anyway and you need them and you feel sort of loyal? What would your general response be in any other situation?
It's actually funny that you bring that up because as much as I love my childhood best friend, I think she's oblivious. And so we actually run into some similar issues of being disrespected. And I have come to a point where I'll just tell someone okay, hey, this upset me, and see if the behavior changes, because you can't change something you don't know is an issue. And so the person I am now would say it, see if the behavior changes. If the behavior doesn't, I'm ghosting, because that's the kind of person I am. I'm I told you it was a problem. I'm done.
And so have you done that with your childhood girlfriend if she's been disrespecting you?
No. In fact,
well, wait a minute. Then what you just said was bullshit, wasn't it? Okay.
So, no.
You
her
want
behavior
to.
took a while to change.
Right.
1,000% sure. Her behavior has changed. And I will say my dad had changed when he started dating. Everything went backwards.
Oh, wow.
That was.
Gotcha. So it's disrespect again. And clearly you only matter when he has time. But if he has to actually, prioritize, you are, as you always were, a lower priority. Safe to say?
1,000%. And that has been since I was a child too.
Okay.
And so a lot of this, this building thing was bringing up all that stuff and not knowing how to say it.
And in one sentence or less, what ultimately is, and this is an odd way to say it, but endure my poor language, if you would. What is the single biggest crime fundamentally that your father has committed against you over the course of your lifetime? And I'm not necessarily saying a one-off event, like he put a gun to my head and said, "You're a bitch," or but what's the pattern, the pattern, the thread running through it? Yeah. What's Dad's
Neglect.
single biggest crime?
Okay. Neglect.
And specifically,
I could get past being criticized.
Well, and of course you say, and that's good on one hand, but on the other hand, it's ooh, that's not good, because what that also says is that you have a very thick skin, which we sort of idolize and say, oh, that's good. No, it's not, because it's basically saying you can treat me like shit and I can take it, I can take it, I can take it. And can you see how that in and of itself might be a problem?
1,000%.
Okay, fair. Yeah. But you said, it's the neglect. And what ultimately then is the underlying message of father's neglect sends to his second daughter?
I don't matter. I'm not important. I'm not worthy of his love. And of course, when I tell him these things, he's like, I never said that. I'm like, but that's the message that's been received.
Mm-hmm. Is he bright enough to get that?
So I will say, with me saying my dad is German, he's very literal, has a very hard time thinking emotionally. That's what I kind of meant. So he's having a hard time understanding any of it. Got it.
All right. I'm going to flip over to you, Lainey. Lainey, welcome to the show. You said that I come from a pretty dysfunctional family, which didn't bother me much until I became a mom myself. Since having my two daughters, I'm overwhelmed with confusion surrounding my relationship with my own mother. And then you go on and talk about how your boyfriend has encouraged you to go no contact, part of me wants to, etc. Why then? What's the correlation between you having kids and all of a sudden my head is a fucking flying shit show? I can't keep everything straight regarding my family, specifically regarding my mom. Why not 2 years before you had the child? Why not 4 years later? Why, when you had children, does everything go a little loopy in your head regarding family and mom?
It was the shit show I was raised in, so I was used to that shit show. But then I had kids, and it made me start to think how I would feel if the same things were occurring to my children. Why was it okay for my mom to let me go through that?
Wow. There's an old saying, Lainey, and the old saying is, adults don't make children, children make adults. And in some ways, your children are educating you by their mere presence in your life, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
And and then I'm going to put the same question to you because it's really appropriate inserted here. And the question is, and you bring up your mom, and you don't bring up the rest of the family. So we'll focus on what you brought up. You brought up your mom. And so what is the single biggest crime that your mom committed against you? Again, not necessarily a one-time thing where she kicked you in the gut and, you started hemorrhaging or something like that. But what's the thread running through it all?
It's actually my stepdad. He would pretty consistently smack my butt walking by or like things like that. And my mom
that I can take that really two ways. One, punishing you, or there was something weirdly sexual vibe about that.
Weirdly sexual vibe.
Okay, then continue.
My mom would brush it off and say, "Oh, well, that's how he says he loves you." And I brought it up that it made me uncomfortable. My sister brought it up to her that it made her uncomfortable, and it was constantly disregarded and ignored.
And thus, mom's crime against you in disregarding, in ignoring, in downplaying, in actually calling that love and appropriate love from a stepdad is asinine. But then, so mom's crime really is what?
I see it as neglect.
And what did she neglect to do?
Validating me and keeping me safe, because I didn't feel safe. And it felt very much so like it was in my head anytime I brought it up to her.
Okay. I love, it felt like I was in my head. I love that you said that. And the reason I like that you said that is because so many parents don't realize that when a child is sharing their experience, their feelings, their truth, what's going on inside of them, their aspirations, and the parent says, no, it's not that, it's this. It's not X, it's Y. It's not apples, it's elephants. All right? Then the child starts to doubt their own brain. They start to doubt their own feelings. They start to doubt their own self. And so then what's fascinating is, fast forward, and you say, later in your write-up, you say, I have trouble identifying my own emotions. When I'm able to identify them, I'm lost about what to do with them, but I have trouble identifying my own emotions. No shit, of course. Your mom taught you your emotions, your thoughts, they're fucking stupid. You're dumb. You're a dumb little girl. You're wrong. I'm right. That's love. Being treated inappropriately sexually and is just, duh, don't be a dumb little girl. That's fundamentally what she's saying to you. You're a fucking idiot. And so, and you've been taught to distrust your own voice, which puts a young girl, puts a young boy, puts any person at any age in a vulnerable state because you don't have that inner grounding of being able to trust your voice and know that this doesn't feel right, right? So, I mean, you think about something as simple as stranger danger, right? Well, how do I know? Are they really a stranger? He's such a nice man or she's such a nice woman and they're offering me candy. I'm sure they're fine because I don't even know what's right or what's wrong anymore. I mean, that's an extreme example, but Jesus, Mom. Okay, and so then you say that my boyfriend has encouraged me to go no contact. And fundamentally, in one sentence or less, what's his rationale for you doing that?
He wants me to make up my own mind on if I want to try to have a relationship with her. The no contact is more of like an end all be all.
Okay.
But
he wants me to make up my own mind, which of course is telling you that who doesn't trust her own mind. It's like, come on, honey, help me out here. Okay. And part of me wants to. Okay. So in a sentence or two, why do you want to? What part, the part of you that wants to do it because why?
I think it's because I'm trying to avoid any sort of conflict. And anytime I do try to have that hard conversation with her, it's been harder than it's worth.
And specifically harder than it's worth in what way above all else?
She has a way of talking me in circles and kind of word vomiting onto me until I don't know how to think straight.
Yep.
she ends up getting her way at the end of the conversation.
I totally get it. I deal with CEOs and business owners and people in high positions in business or climbing in business. And I always tell them, just like I tell people in friendships, in relationships, in love relationships, in family relationships, if you're ever going into a situation where there's a chance that you might lose your way, whether you're giving a presentation or you're in a conversation just like you described, where the other person is talking circles around you or just throwing enough shit against the wall that it gets confusing, one little trick that I recommend is, before you go into that conversation, write down on paper in one sentence, what is my main point? What is my one main point? You can have other points, that's fine, but what's my biggest one that I want them to get, so that no matter how fucking lost you get, you can always come back to that one point and say, listen, Mom, you said a lot of stuff, but I'm not flinching on this one. And don't fucking flinch and don't back down. But you had said a part of me wants to, but another part of me is still longing desperately to have the mom I've always wanted. And so is it reasonable to assume that if I had the mom I always wanted, then I would get the love, then we could have that relationship, and basically that love would basically be confirmation of my worth and that I matter, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so.
And then what would happen in your life if you got that love and confirmation of worth?
I would feel more complete, I think.
And if you felt more complete, then what? What would you do with your life, or what would that feel like?
Happy, I guess.
Yeah.
Being able to call my mom and ask her parenting advice or advice on things with my house. Just stuff like that.
That would feel great. Right. And is it safe to say that to some degree in your parenting you feel lost? And so you'd like to reach out and have her help you through it?
Immensely.
Right. And parenting is scary and it's a lot and it's overwhelming. It's a lot. And so wanting to have that makes total sense. And I want to come back to that in just a minute. Della, I'm going to flip over to you here. You say that the fight isn't over. I'm making progress. I've needed help desperately, and because of that, I've dropped most of what I brought up in April. And what, if you were to sum it up in one sentence, what really is it that you're struggling with most in this entire situation with your father?
So, because so much of this has happened like a while ago now, I'll say this, like, I'm a fighter. I chose to get a job that, even though it's a lower paying job, I don't really need my dad anymore.
Good for you.
And he and I, when I say making progress, had this conversation last night, and he was like, oh, you can still say that, like, you can lean on me. I was like, I don't need you.
Fuck
I
yeah.
figured it out.
How good does that feel?
So good. And my husband heard me say it, and he was like, silently like, oh,
pumping the air, pumping his fist. And
yes.
And how much of that, your own pumping of your own fist, how much of getting the extra job and getting that independence is to, yes, liberate yourself, but how much of it is just this giant fuck you to the old man?
Oh, that one. I have done so many things this year and haven't had to ask my dad for a penny.
Wow. So you found...
And I'm just happy. I like, so he lives in Florida. I didn't even think to reach out for, like, he had the hurricanes. I was like, oh, that's right. Like, I'm just disconnected at this point. I'm like, I'm focusing on me.
And so why did it come this year? Why now? You say you're 32 years old. Why didn't it come at 28, 27, or 39? Why this year?
I think it's, so like I said, he regressed. He had made so much progress. I used to call him every day, twice a day. We used to text constantly. He got a girlfriend. He had not dated since my mother, and they got divorced when I was 3, which he has every right to date. No problem. Of course. The lack of balancing relationships.
Wow. And the underlying message is what that he's sending to you is what?
I'm not a priority.
Right.
It's whenever it's convenient to him.
And how does that feel when he conveys that message yet again? How does it feel?
Disrespectful, hurtful.
Sure.
That, especially when I see my husband with his mom, my friends with their parents, and I'm like, oh, okay, not for me, I guess.
So you see that, and it gives you a sense of relative unsuccess in your own life. Not that you have anything to do with it, but you realize what normal looks like, and damn it, I don't have that. And so to what degree would you say, you said at one point you threw him out when he was watching your pets while you were on vacation. That ended with me tossing him out. What percent of you wants to throw him out of your life permanently? We hear Lainey wrestling with that, or is that not an issue for you?
So I actually had cut him off. I was done. He had set his new girlfriend's birthday is November 22nd. Mine is the 25th. Said her birthday trumps mine. Not in so many words, but yeah. Okay. And he was staying at my house and I was at work when he said this. And I was like, you need to get out of my house right now. I was so angry too that I was like, honestly, like, I'm not saying I would have done anything, but for everyone's safety, you needed to leave.
Right on.
And when I said it that way, because I said it that way last night to him, and he's like, oh, because over text, you can't tell how angry someone is.
Right.
I totally forgot where the point of this was.
No,
so
that's
sorry.
fine. The question was, where are you at with the idea of kicking him out of your life, permanently cutting out? Yeah.
So I just did it to my mom. And that was easy because of how toxic she was.
Okay. And for you personally, is the kicking out of your mom, is that, if you're to be totally honest now, and I want you to dig deep, all right? Not just off the top of your head, is the kicking out of your mom, as you see it, a permanent thing? Is it the real deal divorce of your mom, or is it like a trial separation? Is it an intention to punish her? Is it an intention to sort of kick her ass and see if she will change her ways and to see if she really wants me? With mom, what would you say it really, really, really is?
So this time, it's the final divorce.
Wow.
We've done this many times, and I've given her many, many chances. She'd actually gotten to come live with me, and I helped her get into an assisted living facility because she's older too, has dementia now. And it was hard, especially knowing that she has dementia, because she's definitely not going to understand why I'm doing this.
Yeah, but she's also potentially not even going to fucking know. And she's also potentially not going to even know that you're gone. I mean, my father had dementia, and he died before it got really bad, but and Alzheimer's. But it can reach the point where it's like you show up, they don't even know who you are. So it's like, why am I beating myself up over this? Okay, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, but so I've stopped beating myself up over that.
Good.
Because at this point in my life, I've also been like, I've listened to a lot of your book. I need to go back and like do the work on it. But a lot of this, the reason I got to that point was like, I care about me. I think I might love myself. There's a song called that. And I was listening to that and I was like, you know what? I matter. I matter more than the amount of anxiety I go through just having her in my life.
Okay.
And I was like, that's not healthy. So yeah.
Good for you. And just off the top of your head, who sings the song, I think I might love myself?
Beartooth.
Okay, I got to look that up. That's great. I love good ones. And then I want to get to where you're at with the idea of tossing dad out. I want to get to that in a second, and back to Lainey. But we're going to just take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I counseled with Badass Counseling for about 4 months, and Sven completely turned my life around. He kicked my butt. No shit. He made me do homework too, but I was so ready for a change that I just did it all. I'm telling you, he changed my life. Thank you so much, Badass Counseling.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform, and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
All right, we are back with Della and Lainey. Della, I asked you where you're at with your mom. You said it's the final divorce. It's the real deal, done over. Too toxic. And what's fascinating is that dad doesn't sound like much of a prince either. In fact, he sounds quite toxic himself, hypercritical, clearly favors your sister, hasn't seen you for your birthday in 17 years. And when he gets a girlfriend, he checks out basically of a relationship with you. And yet you haven't kicked him out yet. And so it seems to imply you're sort of on a cusp, or you're toggling back and forth. Briefly, where are you at with regard to the idea of, and not that I'm pushing it, but if you've already done it once, then clearly it's in the realm of possibility for you. Where are you at with the idea of doing that with your father, or not doing that with your father?
So I think I'm kind of where Lainey's at, where I really just want to still have a parent. I lost my best friend's mom to suicide, and that was a gut wrench. Then I just cut my own mother off. I want a parent. I just desperately want a parent. But at the same time, the whole thing with my dad has shown me just how strong I am and that I'm indifferent.
And
I could take it or leave it.
And yet I desperately, to use your word, want a parent. And the biggest thing above all else that you want in having a parent, because you have two parents, you've cut one out, you have a parent, but clearly the way that relationship exists presently is non-gratifying. So it's not just that you want a parent, you want something specific. What precisely is it specifically that you want in or from a parent?
Support, love, nurturing. Things I feel like I did not get.
Support, love, nurturing. And at least based on what you said, it sounds like you've given yourself much of that in this last year. But just out of curiosity, how you say you're married, how long have you been married?
7 years on November 5th.
Hey, congratulations. 7 years. Okay. And you guys had known each other for how long before that?
Almost 12. Well, before that, it was 4 years. So
4 years.
Almost 12 years together.
Sure. So almost 12 years. At what point in your relationship with this fine young man did you start to believe that he actually loved you?
Excuse my nervous laugh.
No, that didn't sound like a nervous laugh. That sounded like a evil, sadistic laugh, like you're about to shoot off the Death Star here. No, so when did you first have a feeling that he loved you, that he loved you?
It took, I want to say, at least a year, and we moved in together after 6 months. Because it took. And then even throughout the years, it took a lot of like, are you sure?
Okay,
are you sure?
And fair enough. And just to note, in case anyone missed that, she moved in with him even though she didn't love him yet, or she wasn't sure that he loved her yet. Okay, fair enough. Well, you said because you weren't sure until a year, but you moved in after 6 months. Okay. Anyway. So the point is, and what fundamentally was it about him that after a year you began to realize this guy loved me? What really was it?
I was in a near-death car accident that completely changed who I was and caused me to honestly end up being codependent on my dad. And he stayed.
Okay.
And
so you sum that up, but in one or two words, how do you sum up that someone staying despite a near-death car accident and you completely changing? How would you sum up what he, now your husband, what that was? What's that an act of, or what does that show?
Love, loyalty.
Fair enough. So just so I'm clear then, after a year of his love and loyalty, you began to realize this guy loves me. And when, just give me a number, when did you know it? When did you not just think it, but you fucking knew it, like in your bones knew it?
I'm trying to put a real like pinpoint on this because I feel like I've grown so much since COVID even. Like I feel like I still had this issue in 2020 with him. And like, you can think about how long we were together then.
Right.
Where I still kind of went back and forth, but I want to say it was probably 2021, end of 2021 that I really knew in my bones. It was like,
fair enough. So at that point, you're roughly 8 or 9 years into the relationship. So after 1 year, you start to believe his pattern of behavior. After 7 or 8 years, it's not started. You cemented, I know it, I believe it. I believe in this pattern. This guy is motherfucking steady Eddie, and he's a good, decent man, and I believe in his love for me after a 7 or 8 year pattern. Okay. And yet you have a 32-year pattern of behavior in your father that you still don't fucking believe.
You know what? No, I tolerate it. Like we were talking about.
But the point, no.
I don't believe it.
No. You believe it. No. You tolerate it because you're still hoping that he will support, love, and nurture. In other words, you don't want to believe it. You don't fully believe that this 32-year pattern is who he really is. I believe that somewhere, I have to believe that somewhere in him, he really does love me. So you don't believe the 32-year pattern of behavior. Otherwise, you wouldn't tolerate it. It's like, this motherfucker isn't going to change. Why am I sticking around? I'm sticking because I said, do you want a parent? You have two parents. And you're like, no. I want support, love, and nurturing. So if you want that and you have a 32 year pattern of behavior from someone that he isn't that, or if he does give any of that, it's always with strings or guilt or now you owe me or bullshit that you wouldn't tolerate from anyone else, not even your bestest, oldest friend. Okay. And you're afraid, to stand up to the old man because you fear him walking away from you. You fear him cutting you off, which would be the ultimate confirmation of what you already know. And that is he doesn't give a shit enough to support, love, and care. You don't want to believe what your eyes are seeing and what the pattern is showing. I want to flip over to Lainey. Lainey, what's going on inside of you right now?
That kind of resonated with me a little bit.
Specifically?
Not wanting to believe it. And
what might be the reason, Lainey, that you don't want to believe it? Or what specifically? Let's start with this. What specifically, drill it down to one fucking sentence. What specifically is it that you don't want to believe and maybe you've been running from and holding on, hoping it's not true? What really are we talking about, Lainey?
That my mom cares more about my stepdad than she cares about me.
Right. And let me ask you this. If you were to just play with it for a minute, you know your mom as well as anyone, if not better than anyone on God's green earth, okay? You certainly have a longer history than the stepdad and all this shit, okay? Technically, and you know her inside and out, quite literally. You lived inside of her privates. So, what do you think is the fear operating inside of your mother? Not that this justifies it at all, but what do you think is the fear operating inside of your mother that causes her to choose to protect her relationship with her husband over her own child's safety? What does she fear happening if she doesn't protect him and his actions, no matter how fucked they are?
I think she's afraid of being alone.
And because if she's alone, then what? She has to make her own way financially, or she has to deal with something else. What do you think she might fear about being alone?
I think it has to do with dealing with her own stuff, like mentally. Mm-hmm. But she's kind of backed herself into a corner to where she lives in the middle of nowhere. Her only connection really is through him.
Wow. Wow. So she'd really be alone, physically isolated. And then also, as you said, she'd be forced to look at her own shit from her own past, etc.
And they were having issues a few years back. She even said it herself that I asked her why she didn't just divorce him. And she said she just doesn't want to go through another divorce. When she divorced my dad.
Wow. And just out of curiosity, how old is your mother?
She's close to 50. She was born in 1972.
Oh, no, she's over 50. That puts her at 52. Okay, fair enough. You're in a situation with someone who has, since you were young, how long has the stepdad been in your life?
Since I was 10.
Okay. So you're in a situation where you have gotten the clear message since you were 10 years old that you are less important and I'm not going to protect you. And what is the impact on a young girl and then a young woman when she has gotten the message and gotten it reconfirmed, presumably since then, that she's not going to protect you? What's the effect on you? You said you didn't feel safe. What does it cause you to think about yourself? Or what did that girl think about herself?
That I was worthless.
Wow.
That I recently started going to therapy and getting on antidepressants because I've struggled with suicidal thoughts and self-harm in the past.
If, just so to put it out there, if you were going to kill yourself, how would you do it, Lainey?
At the moment, it would probably be overdose.
Okay, fair. And let me ask you, what is the biggest thing that death would give you relief from, or it feels like death would give you relief from?
The emotional turmoil.
And it just stirs and runs and runs and runs in your head and in your gut and in your throat and on your skin. Is that somewhat in the ballpark?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Lainey, what do you do to get all that shit out of you? Anything? I mean, it's good you're in therapy. Huge, total wise move there, young lady. But anything else that you have done over the years or that you do presently to sort of flush some of that shit out of you, to actually get it out of you? Anything at all? And it's okay if you don't. I'm just curious.
Well, like I said, I used to self-harm, which was an awful coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. But when I was younger, that was my coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. Now that I have kids and constantly caring for them and everything else, my boyfriend's kind of pushing me to find my own thing. But I'm still kind of lost on the new thing that I can balance.
Yeah, and pro tip here, Lainey, and I talk about this in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and that is one of the mistakes that people make in trying to get happy is that they do more things to make them happy. I know that sounds fucking stupid as shit, but the bottom line is the problem really isn't that you don't have enough happy in your life. The problem is that you've got all the shit in your life. And adding happy doesn't make the shit go away. It can be a distraction at times, but the nature of the shit inside is it'll fucking pull down anything. You can be having the happiest moment. You could be in the fucking Eiffel Tower, fucking kissing your boyfriend, champagne, most beautiful view and sunset, and still you're fucking miserable inside. That one moment may feel good, but 2 moments later, that shit is eating you up from the inside. Am I in the ballpark here, Lainey?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so the task is not, I mean, it's good to add. I'm not disputing that, but that's not the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution is that it's going inside of it and welcoming up the very feelings you're trying to run from and flushing them out. And that's what, therapy is for, but fucking hell, therapy, for an hour once a week or 50 minutes once a week, it's like, you're not going to get through more than the last week's shit when, the kid crapped all over the bed and I had to do the sheets for 2 days and, and there was blood in his stools and then the blood wouldn't come out of the sheets. And, it can be all that crap, which is important to flush out because otherwise it's like, you go nuts. But, and that was a bit graphic, I apologize, but you're a parent and any parent knows that's real shit. All right. No, the bottom line is, kiddo, is you got to be fucking deliberate. You got to be deliberate about getting the shit out of you. See, the very thing that you basically accuse your mother of, not accuse, but you said she's afraid of being alone because she's afraid of going into her shit is precisely what's going on inside of you. You have to go into, and therapy is good. And the antidepressants, hey man, if that works for you, and if your therapist says go for it, I say, hey, go for it. But in the end, you still have to get the pain out of you. And that happens. And this is why you constantly hear me harping on journaling, writing letters you don't send, because the more you sit down to a piece of paper and a pen, that's all it costs. The cost of a piece of paper and a motherfucking pen, and just start writing.
Go ahead. I actually wrote one of those letters for my mom, and it brought up a lot of anger that I didn't know I had. And it's like a sentence later, it's like I was just numb, and I don't know if that's how it's supposed to happen?
Yes. Let me tell you what happened right there. It's like all your feelings, because your feelings were minimized. And this goes for you too, Della, that all the feelings got minimized and you were negated and you don't matter. And so the child and the young adult, teenager and all that says, well, I better stuff that down. Mom's important. Dad's important. I got to key into them. What's going to make them happy? How do I heal them? Because if I can just heal them, then they'll be nice to me. But not only that, then they'll meet my needs. Both you motherfuckers are both saying, I want to stick around because I still want support, love, nurturing. I still want validation and to make me feel safe. You're still wanting something. So if I can stuff my shit down, make them feel better, then they'll meet my needs. But what we've got in both cases is that ain't happening. Okay. So the bottom line is then you've got all your feelings, all your needs, all your pain, all your fears, all the bullshit beliefs you were taught about yourself in that vault. that you've been stuffing them in your whole fucking life. And what has to happen is you go inside that vault and you start pulling out a cabinet, one cabinet. Start with one cabinet of files. And I tell you what, I'm just going to start with one folder inside that file. The mom folder regarding what I'm feeling right now. And you went into that file. Well, shoot, you pull out that file and you start feeling it and looking at it and weighing it. And it's heavy and it hurts and it brings up mad. All of that is bueno. That is good. That's great. That's what you want. And it's heavy. And it's like, but Sven, I get so many people saying, I quit counseling because it was so uncomfortable. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the point. When you're pulling out those files, you're feeling all those feelings that you haven't ever felt. But here's the thing. The more you flush it out, the more you do it. It's not the first time. It's like going to the gym. The first time I go in and after a half hour, it's like, this is hard. Then I walk away. It's like, well, if I don't see huge biceps and triceps tomorrow, I'm not fucking going back to the gym. Why would I go through that fucking pain if I'm not going to see results the next day? Well, come on, that's that. But most people don't know. With working out, they know, well, that would be silly. But with journaling or counseling, it's just a process. But what happens is you start with little bites, just little like at Halloween and you go, tricks or treating, and then you get the little bite candy bars because maybe they don't give out the big ones.
Fun size,
right? The fun size, right? That's what we want. We want the fun size counseling or journaling. It's not real fun, but that's good. You did the letter. And the purpose of the letter is not to give it to the person, because if you think you're going to give it to the person, you're going to edit the shit out of what you say. It's to keep flushing it. But the thing you got to remember here, Lainey, and you too, Della, because you need to be about this, because there's more shit in there. All the fuck yous are in there, Della. The more you flush that out, the more momentum you're going to have. And what that means, Lainey, is you're going to be able to stay in it longer. Okay, this first time, you brought up the anger and then you went numb. And the reason you went numb is because your system isn't used to it. So your body shut down and said, okay, that's all we can handle this time. And that's okay. That's totally okay. You had a fun-sized bite. It's like, okay, it's there. It's there. Okay, so now you can access it. The thing you have to remember, both of you, the thing you have to remember is those feelings, that anger, Lainey, that anger, Della, and not to mention the sadness, the longing, the desperation, the betrayal, the disappointment, the happy, because maybe there are some happy memories back there. All of that, those feelings aren't what was done to you. Stay with me here. Those feelings are your true, authentic self's response to what was done to you. So literally, every one of those feelings is your authentic self. That's the real you. That's your 8-year-old you reminding you of how you felt. She's trying to be free. That little 8-year-old girl inside of you is trying to be free. She's trying to have her voice heard, and it's caught in her throat because she's not allowed to bring it up. And so she stuffs it way back down. And as we watch the movie of your life, we see that little girl and her shoulders are slumped. And we see her fighting back tears every night and laying in bed. It's just sad. Why won't you be nice to me? Just be nice to me. Her whole life has been just be nice to me. And all those feelings in there are her. That's your authentic self. That's not what somebody did to you. That's your response to what someone did to you. And the more you let that out, the more you set your inner self free. And what that also does is you're setting that little girl free. But guess what the gift is that she's giving to you? She's introducing you to your real self. And the more you allow yourself to feel those feelings, the easier it's going to be to, as you said so well, Lainey, you said, I have trouble identifying my own emotions. And when I am able to identify them, I'm lost about what to do with them. Your authentic emotions are everything that's in that vault. And the more you allow yourself to feel it, you are honoring, giving yourself the respect that no one gave you. You are honoring that little girl. Because if you shut down those voices now, if you shut down her feelings now it's you disrespecting her. Now it's you telling her her feelings don't matter. Because she's coming to you and she's saying, please, set these out. Let these be free. Please, you're stronger than I was. And you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I am, kid. And the kid is saying, yes, you are. because the kid can read your thoughts because, well, she's smart and she's you. She's saying, yes, you are. You can do it. Please set me free. And the gift that she offers in exchange is that you will finally know your real self. So let me toss it back to you, Della. What's going on inside of you right now, Della?
I'm thinking about, there's a exercise where you close your eyes and think about your childhood self and going to your childhood home and picking yourself up and going, I'm going to take you. Oh, I'm going to cry. Oh, I'm going to take
Go
you
ahead.
away from
I'm
these people.
crying too. I'm tearing up too. Do it. Come on.
That was the biggest change in life for me. It was to do that exercise and obviously like read your books and stuff. Because at the end of the day, if nobody else is going to love you, at least you can love yourself because you can control that. Like I'm a control freak to begin with. So it's like, that's something I can control. And like, why the hell wouldn't I?
Right.
And one of the things I was thinking about how I got to this point, because obviously I have the critiques in my head that even my husband pointed this out. He's like, those aren't your thoughts.
That's
like
right.
Who put those thoughts of you there?
That's right.
Like you weren't born thinking those things. Just things like that. I'm sorry. I kind of
No, healing yourself.
There.
No, you're right on that. The idea of going back and giving that child the comfort, the safety that she never got, and the listening. I'll listen to you as long as you want to talk, sweetheart. Just talk, and I'm here, and I got you. And you're combing with your hands. You're looking in her sweet face, and you're combing her hair behind her ears. And you're holding her and you're rocking her and you're saying, let it out. No one's ever going to hurt you again. And finally, she feels safe to let it out. And then you have the task of helping her get it out. And that's where the courage comes in. Lainey, what scares you the most about the idea of going into the vault and bringing the files out and doing a little more, maybe writing 20 more letters to your mom or doing more journaling about, well, where did these thoughts come from? Or whatever it is, going inside and getting that stuff out, because until the pain is out of you, the pain is still in you. What scares you the most about that, Lainey?
I want to just write it off as I'm too lazy to do it right now, but you're scared. I know that answer's not going to fly.
That's right. It's not lazy. It's scary. And what's the scariest part, Lainey?
I think just feeling it and not knowing when it'll stop.
Okay. And that's fair. And it will stop. I'll tell you exactly when it'll stop. It'll stop the further you go in and the more courage you have. And I know it's scary. I have been there. Remember, I had to get myself out of a 12-year suicidal depression. I get it. Okay. It's not when it'll stop, really. It's when will I begin to notice results? Because it's like if you've, let's say because of health problems, you couldn't go to the gym. I always use this because I'm just a meathead, but, and let's say I've put on, 50 pounds and, and also I've lost a lot of muscle strength. I don't need to know when I'm going to lose the full 50 or when I'm going to have, be Arnold Schwarzenegger. What I really need to have me keep going is to see some results. Now that I can tell you when it's all going to be out of you, and that's when you have the courage to go and just don't stop. That it becomes a lifestyle, that your journal becomes your best motherfucking friend and your go-to, the one that's always eager to listen, the one that wants to hear more about that 8-year-old, the one that is eager to hear about the kids or the boyfriend or the husband, boyfriend in your case, Lainey. But you'll start to see results soon. Go back to that letter, write it again. Bring up all the rage. Bring up all the swear words you can muster. All the fucking rage. Do it when you have time. And if the kids are, with daycare or with someone else, do it when you can go out for a walk or go and work out while you're doing it. So you're getting the physical release while you're getting that verbal release as well. I wanted to ask you, I want to go back to this one point with you both, but I'm going to ask you first, Lainey. I want to go back to this notion of cutting her off and so forth, but I want to preface it by asking this question. With Della, she said that she wants a parent, but we discovered she wants a parent who gives support and love and nurturing, and that there's a long pattern of behavior of her not getting that. So she's hoping against really any sense of hope because there's a 32-year pattern. But my question I want to ask you is slightly different, and it's this, Lainey. What % was your mom a good parent, and what percent was your mom a bad parent? By your own standards, whatever your standards are, what percent was your mom, considering the neglect and the not protecting and everything else, what percent was she good? What percent was she a bad parent?
I want to say 60% good.
And why do you want to say that?
Because of all the good memories that I had with her.
Okay. And so you want to say that. And what's fascinating is you didn't say, I want to say, 60% bad because of all the bad memories I had with her. Is it possible, and maybe it's not, is it possible you are sugarcoating it or giving her the benefit of the doubt, not wanting to look at what the real truth might be? And maybe it's not that at all, but is it possible you're not wanting to admit that it's not that number?
I'm a massive sugarcoater, so yeah.
And so if you were to just give the plain, unvarnished truth and not be afraid to call it for what it is, what's the real truth?
Probably closer to 20%.
20% good.
Yes.
Well, when you say you are a massive sugar coater, you are a massive sugar coater. You set it up as triple what she actually is. So she is 20% a good parent. So you had some good times. And so there were times when you felt love. Is that accurate?
It was.
Oh, wow. So we had good time. You hesitated. That was a long hesitate. I didn't say, so you felt loved your whole life. I just said, so you had times where you felt loved and you still hesitated. So even though we had good times, that doesn't necessarily mean I felt loved during those good times. Let me ask that question then. In your entire life, with respect to your mom, what percent of your life have you felt loved by your mom? Be honest, don't sugarcoat.
I don't even think it was 5%.
And let me ask you, now you're giggling. Is the giggling perhaps hiding some other feeling?
Yeah.
What do you
It's a nervous giggle.
That's fair. And that's okay. That's okay. What makes you nervous about admitting that my mom has only loved me 5% of my fucking life? What is it about that makes you nervous? Help Della and me understand.
Looking at it as a reality, I guess.
Yeah. Does it hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the truth is, I think we're all feeling your hurt on that one, kid. It's sad to see that, to really see it for the first time, and to have that sink in. It's very sad. And that's what you need to be journaling about. That's what you need to be writing about. So let me ask you, Della, where are you at? I just want to sort of get back to this issue of what you raised in your write-up to us. Where do you think you are at? What percent? Actually, let me state it as a percentage. Okay, just because I have a very simple little mind, and so keep it simple for me here, Della. What percent do you want to cut off Dad and divorce Dad, so to speak, and what percent do you not want to?
I'm trying to think of a number because I'm currently in a place of being numb. So it's hard to, because
why are you numb? Why are you in a state of numb? What is it? Because numb is kind of a holding pattern, which is kind of what Lainey was saying. Yes. She was feeling those feelings. It's like, okay, that's enough. I got to shut it down, which is totally fine. In fact, that's a good thing. It enables you to function again. Why have you chosen a sort of holding pattern? Why are you in a numbness right now?
Easier.
Okay. And it's easier. It's easier than what?
Dealing with it.
Okay.
Because I've thrown myself into work. I'm distracted. I haven't had time to think about it.
Right. You've chosen the distraction. Like with Lainey, it's like, oh, well, maybe I'm too lazy. No. Okay. So then if we were to be real and raw just for a minute and open up the door of numbness, behind door number one of numbness, what's really there is what percentage do you feel like it's time to cut them off? And what percentage do you feel like, no, it's not time?
I don't know how to explain this because I'm comparing it to my mother. Like I have my mother blocked on everything. What I want with my dad is I just don't care to talk to him anymore. Like I just don't care to reach out. I don't necessarily care to block him.
Because I don't care. So you want basically a sort of a head fake. You want to fake like, or you want to pretend like I'm cutting you off, Dad, and I want to watch your reaction. Is it you want to punish him and see how he reacts because you cut off your mom entirely, but you don't want to cut him off entirely, which implies you're still somewhat leaving the door open, like a trial separation.
And I think that's more I know that I do still love my dad, and I think it's like Lainey. I have more good memories than like I definitely have probably like 30% good memories.
All right.
Like
you had to rub her fucking nose in it. You had to rub Lainey's nose. No. I'm teasing.
It's not much more, is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha. And so and so then Della, you have to at some point you have to face your shit. And you have done an amazing job of really standing up and finding your backbone this year. And I'm so proud of you. And I mean that because that's a huge shift. Okay. But now it's time to find that strength to address it and to address at least the rest of the stuff in you that you're numbing yourself from and distracting yourself from so that you can have greater clarity. And there's nothing wrong with doing a trial separation with your dad. You got to do what feels right to you. But the thing you can't stop doing is addressing the shit inside. I'm trying to sort of kickstart Lainey over here, but you have experience doing it. You've seen results from it, and you needing to take a break from it and going on for a while, that was totally okay. But at some point when it feels right, you got to dive back in there. And Lainey, where are you at? What % do you feel like you're ready to divorce Mom, and what % are you just like, no, I'm not?
It's kind of a hard one because with my family dynamic, the divorce, one of them is kind of like divorcing the rest of my family.
Ah, yes. And because they would turn on you, they would get mad at you, they would say, why are you doing this? Is that somewhat accurate?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Guilt trip,
oh, yeah.
Everything.
The family myth exists to protect the person at the top of the food chain. And the family myth is just play along and let Mom be a fucking asshole. And Lainey, your role is just keep eating shit, Lainey. Shut up, Lainey. Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Oh, that's just the way they are. You know how they are, though.
Right. And that continues in your life as long as you choose to let it continue. And I'm not saying today or this month is the time to do it, but at some point, your pain will outweigh your fear. And at some point, you're going to need to stand up and say, no, I'm done. And you don't have to. It's your life. You can spend it however you want. But they're going to continue to treat you this way. And you're going to continue to allow yourself to be treated this way until you put an end to it, because they are not going to magically change. And the reason Mom's not going to magically change and the family isn't going to magically change is because it works for them. There's no pain point for them. So they're going to keep doing it. Mom has no incentive to change. And so at some point, as you guys have heard me say a million times before, change will not occur until the pain gets bad enough. Well, ladies, I thank you so much for being on the show. May I request that you stick around after the show? Because I'd really like to just ask one or two more things. Can you guys stick around for 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
Lovely. Lovely. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, ladies. You've been great. On behalf of so many of my listeners around the world, many of whom are struggling with these exact same issues, you have to understand that you sharing your stories cracks open new thinking for them, gives words to what they're feeling. So I want to thank you for that. Rob, final thoughts today.
I think these are two women who know themselves better than they think they do, and that makes me quite optimistic.
Well said. And especially, in Lainey's case where she has children, the more she heals herself now, it'll change her parenting. Would you say that your parenting changed the more you did your self-work? Regardless of what age your children were, Rob, did your parenting change as a result of you changing your childhood?
There is just no doubt about it. And when you see the world through your children's eyes, it helps you to understand exactly where you were coming from yourself and then what to do about it.
Bingo. Bingo. Well said, Rob. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Please tune in for the overtime right after this. On behalf of my kick-ass sidekicks, KC and Rob the Rocket, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.